Have you ever felt proud of how far you've come and stressed about what it now means for everyone else? That's first gen wealth. The pressure, the pride, and if we're being honest, the panic that one wrong move could take it all back. Today, we're naming the identity conflict, the family expectations, and the fear of losing it. And then we're building systems that protect your progress without isolating you from people. Go ahead and download the First Gen Wealth Boundary Kit on the website and watch YouTube for a deeper dive. Let's get into it.
Yeah. So they might go ways
Welcome back. Welcome back. I'm so grateful to see you. You, I am telling you all today about what's going to be happening with all of you high earners. We are building real purpose on purpose. Welcome back to another episode of the Do Different Better show, where we talk about wealth wisdom and money moves, simple, strategic, and for grown folks only. I'm your host, Elaine Rasmussen, founder and CEO of Connect Up Institute, managing director of the Integrated Capital Fund, and your wealth identity coach and money co-pilot. Today's episode is deeply personal for a whole lot of people out there. It's called First Gen Wealth, the pressure, the pride, and the panic. And if you are the first in your family to earn well, to save well, to invest and own assets, understand systems, or even just have a little bit of breathing room, you already know this episode is not just about money. It's about identity. It's about responsibility. It's about the pressure of being the one who, quote unquote, made it while still feeling like one wrong move could take it all away. First Gen Wealth has a very specific emotional texture to it. It sounds a little bit like some of these things. I'm proud of what I've built and I'm terrified of losing it. I want to help my people. I can't be everybody's safety net. Whether you ask for this role or not. Or maybe it could be, I don't want to isolate, or I also can't keep doing this. That's the tension that you might be feeling on the inside. And you don't feel like you can tell anybody about it. And what I want to say is this right up front. If you feel both pride and pressure at the same time, that doesn't mean that you're ungrateful. It means you're carrying something really real. Because for a lot of first gen people, success doesn't just show up as freedom. It also shows up as a responsibility. And that is 100% real. And a lot of times, sometimes it's spoken, sometimes it's assumed, and sometimes it's projected. You really don't even know what's happening. And it may not have been something that you projected out, but it's being projected on you. And that pressure can make wealth feel less like a blessing and more like a full time side job. So let's define this just beyond income. Okay. First gen wealth does not just mean I make more money than my family did in the past or ever. It often means you are the first to understand the financial systems and, quite frankly, different kind of financial stress that comes with success. You might be the first to have access to certain rooms, the first to think about wealth instead of just survival, the first to create structure, not just a salary or a paycheck. That matters because money hits differently when you are not just earning it. It feels like you are carrying a whole emotional and generational story. You're not just paying bills, you're trying to break patterns and you're trying to build something different that there maybe is no roadmap or blueprint for in your family. You're trying to protect your future without feeling like you're betraying your past. This is why first gen wealth comes with this hidden tax. There is this emotional labor. It's not just financial labor. but emotional, deep emotional labor. You're often explaining your decisions, you're fielding expectations like you're in the matrix. You're holding a lot of guilt, maybe put upon you, maybe self imposed. You're trying not to look too different and trying not to abandon people and having what's might be called survivor's remorse. And also, you're trying not to drown under the weight of being the one. And this is where wealth capacity matters. Now, remember, wealth capacity is what your life can actually hold without breaking down, right? So, and for first gen, high capacity people, high earners, your capacity is often under the pressure from multiple directions. You're feeling it from your career, you're feeling it from your own goals, personal or financial, your family needs, but also emotional complexity, but also the social expectations, and sometimes the internal fear that none of this is secure. It could all go away in a moment. We see this often with sports athletes and more recently with the performing artist Glorilla and her family coming out on television saying that they expect her to financially support them because she made it. So even when income looks strong on paper, your life can begin to feel like it's a chokehold because money is not just funding you. It's also carrying anxiety, your history, your hopes, and other people's expectations. And this is why some high earners still feel broke, not because they're irresponsible, but because their money is doing too many jobs all at the same time. And nothing has been talked about, nothing's been explained, and nothing's been clear or explicit. Now let's talk about the identity conflicts because this is where pressure turns into panic. So there's the identity conflict that is I made it versus I can't let people down. Here are some real common first gen internal conflicts. So, this first one really is about hey, I'm doing well, but also I can't act like I'm above everybody else, right? Conflict number two is I want to build wealth, but I also, what kind of person says no when people are asking me for help, especially family members? Particularly those family members you maybe I haven't seen or talked to in a while. Then there's conflict number three. I should feel safe now, but also if I lose this, I'm not just losing money, I'm losing proof that I actually escaped or I made it. Conflict number four. I'm really grateful for what's happened, but also I'm feeling overwhelmed. And one thing I want to clean up for you right now, gratitude and overwhelm can coexist in the same body, in the same mind. You can be thankful and also tired and not knowing what to do. You can feel proud and feel panic. You can love your family and still need boundaries. Now, let's talk about the fear of losing it. Scarcity memory doesn't disappear just because your income has gone up. A lot of first gen people have what I call a scarcity memory, right? Even if your life is different now, your body remembers the instability, remembers the shut off notice or eviction notice. I know I did. Bounce checks, food insecurity, the will figure it out, money crisis driven decisions, adults around you stressing over money in ways you felt but couldn't control. So even when you start earning more, your nervous system may not automatically feel safe. You're still holding on to all of those feelings. Your body feels the same way. And so it shows up as checking accounts, checking your checking accounts too often. Maybe you're over saving, but still feeling insecure. You're underspending out of fear, or you're over giving out of guilt, or you have perfectionism about decisions. You're panicking when something unexpected comes up, or you're feeling like you can never really fully relax or breathe. That's not because you're irrational. It's because your nervous system is responding to history that's embedded in how you've you know felt around money. This is what I call the money stress loop. Uncertainty is a threat. Response then leads to mental rehearsal, and money then is leading to more uncertainty. And when you're first gen, the threat response can get louder because the stakes feel bigger. And sometimes they actually are bigger. So it's not just what happens if I mess up. It really becomes, what if I become the cautionary tale? I become that one story like you see on the news of they had everything and it all went away. And now they're living in a van down by the river. What if I lose what my family never had? What then will be the judgments? What will be the things that people will say about me? What if people were counting on me and I couldn't hold it? I couldn't hang on to it. I couldn't hack it. And that's why this episode is so important, because we're not just talking about how to say no. That's part of it. But what I'm talking about is how to build systems that are strong enough to carry your love for the people without turning your life into a rescue mission. So I hope that this is landing for you so that you can start to see and understand and connect that even though you may have stepped into some kind of wealth, whether it be through your career or through some other means, maybe you've won the lottery, or maybe you've now gone into a higher paid position and that is double, triple, quadrupled your income, or you've created something, maybe you're an influencer and now your wealth has grown. That doesn't take away all the feelings that your body has felt around money, that your survival tactics. It is really that fight or flight mentality that comes in. It feels the same, right? So I don't know if you've ever heard about, they say that all these sugar substitutes, your body still looks at it as sugar. It doesn't matter what form it is, your body processes it as sugar. Well, it's the same thing. Even though you may have now more wealth or you have created more opportunity for yourself, especially if you're the first generation, your body still remembers the threat of insecurity, of losing everything, right? It doesn't know, your body doesn't know that you've made more money. It just knows that feeling of scarcity. It knows that feeling of insecurity. It knows that feeling of loss. And so it is making it's equating what you're hearing in your head despite having more money in your bank account. So I hope that this is so maybe tying some threads for you and just trying to hear some clicks and things about, where am I sitting? What am I feeling? Are you a first generation wealth holder, or you're building some success and had more success than maybe your parents or your grandparents? You're the first to go to college. You're the first to one to make it. So I just want to name these feelings because they are real. And so coming up in the next segment, I'm going to be talking about the pride and the panic, the family money role for first gen people and how it gets assigned to you, but also talking about the expectations underneath the actual ask and how you can create boundaries without becoming the villain. I'll catch you in the next segment. Welcome back to the Do Different Better Show. I'm your host, Elaine Rasmussen, your wealth coach and money co-pilot. So we've been talking about being the first generation in your family to be able to have some kind of wealth or success, some financial security, and what that might be doing to you emotionally, how your body might be processing it. So now let's get into the part that a lot of people feel but don't always say out loud. Sometimes being first gen means your success gets treated like community property, right? Remember Monopoly? Not because your people or your family are bad, and not because you shouldn't care, but really, this is about when one person begins to rise, everyone feels the possibility and sometimes the pressure attached to that rise or that success. So, I want to say something simple and clear. Generosity needs governance. Let me say that again. Generosity needs governance, and boundaries are love with structure. Okay? Because without structure, generosity turns into exhaustion, and exhaustion turns into resentment. And resentment is not the legacy we are trying to build. Absolutely not. Okay. So let's now talk about the roles that actually get assigned to first gen people. A lot of first gen people get placed into financial roles without ever really agreeing to do it. It just sort of happens. And let's name a few of the roles, and you let me know if any of these sound familiar for you. Role number one, the family CEO. You're the person to come to with financial problems, financial questions, forms, taxes, emergencies. What do you think I should do? And you may have no formal training or informal training to answer any of these questions, but because you're the one who made it, there's an expectation you must because you made it. And you're not just helping financially, you're carrying the cognitive and emotional load of that responsibility. Role number two, the sponsor. You cover things regularly: phone bills, rent help, school extras, sibling support, parent support. Maybe not always in huge amounts, but it's recurring enough that your money has extra mouths to feed. Role number three. This is the emergency line or the 911. Something happens and you're the first one they call. Sometimes because you are the most capable, whether it be financially or logistically, sometimes because you've been responsive in the past. And so now you've created a unset expectation that you will be there in the future. But sometimes because no one else has slack the way you do. This happened to me. I had someone in my family. I wouldn't say that I was doing particularly well, but I was the first to be college educated in my family. I had a decent job, but I had somebody take checks from my home and write checks to pay their utility bills without telling me. And their presumption was, well, I had it, which at the time I did not have it. It just looked like I had it. Role number four, the success symbol. This one is far more subtle. You're expected to look like success, to show the results, to represent the possibility. That can create pressure to overspend or overperform. Maybe you're going out there. I remember seeing when I was in college, I remember seeing folks who would go out and use their financial aid money and buy name brand designer handbags or name brand shoes because there seemed to be this unsaid, or maybe it was said, expectation that they look a certain way because they came from a certain part of town or a certain family, when that really wasn't representative of what was actually going on and how they actually needed to spend their money for their own security. Role number five, the financial therapist. You don't just give money, you absorb stress. You explain, you counsel, you manage feelings, other people's feelings around money, but also maybe underneath your own feelings. Now, beneath the ask is usually something much deeper. So, this really puts you in a really tough spot. Most money asks are not just about money. Underneath these asks can be things like really talking about safety, dignity, relief. fairness, recognition, repair, or maybe just simple hope. Which is why saying no can feel emotionally bigger than the actual dollar amount that's being asked. It can really feel like you're betraying somebody, you're abandoning them, you're giving them fuel to say, well, you've changed when you really haven't, or that you think that you're better than them, or this one's one I've heard in the past and I've definitely heard with other people. You forgot where you came from. That's the emotional landmine of all time. And this is where understanding your wealth identity can be really, really useful because your wealth identity is going to help you at least understand like how you're thinking about it and navigating it so you can put it into context of how to handle family pressure. So let's go back and see how this correlates. If you're a caretaker, this is the identity most likely where you're going to overgive. You feel responsible, you want to rescue, you equate love with solving other people's problem. The challenge that you're facing is that you feel guilt, like a high level of guilt. Then there's the builder. The builder, you step in and try to solve everything structurally. You become the fixer, the planner, the strategist for everyone. Your challenge is you're over functioning. And as a result, you might miss some key pieces that are part of your security. Then you maximizers. You tend to over explain, you justify, and you are debating. You want everybody to understand your logic of why you're doing a thing. Your challenge is trying to boundary your way through with some TED Talks or something you learn on an Instagram reel. And that's not, you need something else. And then my minimalist strategist. You avoid the conversation altogether until it actually blows up at the family dinner or the cookout, the family barbecue, right? Your challenge is unspoken resentment, followed by an abrupt shutdown, mentally, physically, and communication wise. And I want to be clear, none of these are bad. Remember, I just want you to identify what your pattern is because your pattern is going to help you get to the right solution. So when I give you the solution, you'll know what's optimal for you based on your wealth identity. And it's important to recognize these patterns because the patterns will repeat. This is why it's really important for you to have a framework. So now what I'm going to help you talk about is to get to that framework that you need. So this is the system that I want you to use. Number one is you're going to create what I call a support budget. A support budget is the amount of money you are willing to give or share on purpose in a defined period of time. That could be monthly, it could be quarterly, it could be yearly. The point of this is that the support becomes planned and not just freestyle. I literally was at a convening and I ran into a friend of mine and she was telling me she has a number that she gives every year. This is the number, doesn't matter who the ask is from, this is the number. But because she hadn't systematized it over the course of time, she had spent $3,000 over that number. And so it was at that point she realized, she's like, oh, I need to create a system where I know, like, am I abiding by that number? But two, I need to be able to know for my own self because if I go over that amount by $3,000, it's going to impact other things that I'm trying to do. Maybe it's building her optionality fund. Maybe it's contributing to her brick house, whatever the case may be is. That is the consequence. It's not because you just want to have a number. Also, it helps you be able to understand of like, you know what, next year I want the number to increase. I had more requests this year, or maybe you want to decrease it. Maybe that was your number was too much. And you're like, I can't actually really afford that number. I need to bring that number down. And the reason why this is important because freestyle support feels generous in the moment. And it leads to being destabilizing in the long run. A support budget lets you say, I do help. I just don't help in a way that breaks down my own household or my own goals. That is what values aligned wealth really actually is. So, rule number two, the rescue rule. Your rescue rule defines what you do not fund. So, here are some examples. I do not cosign anything ever. I do not drain my buffer for someone else's recurring emergency, right? I do not take on debt to help someone else. I do not cover patterns without a plan. And I do not fund things that threaten my baseline. This matters because people often think boundaries are vague, that they're vague feelings, and they're not. Boundaries are policies. Just like when you go shopping, there's a refund policy. You can have a policy too. Rule number three. This is the cadence rule. Cadence means you decide support on a schedule, not in the middle of a panic call. And that schedule can look a variety of different ways. You don't need to decide everything in the moment of the emotion that's happening. You can actually say to the person who's requesting, let me look at my numbers and I'll get back to you. Or you can say, I handle I handle support requests on a planned basis. And that planned basis can be I look at them on the 15th of the month. I look at them on the last day of the year. I review these every week on Sunday morning. Whatever that is, you don't even have to tell the other person. But the more important thing is that I look at these at a certain time in a certain place, not necessarily in this moment, or I'm not making a decision on the phone. Maybe your rule is I sit with these requests for 48 hours before responding. That is also a good way to approach it. Cadence protects both your nervous system and your judgment. Now, I want to be 100% real. This still won't feel easy at first. I am not trying to say that you can flick on a switch and be able to turn this around and import all of these rules into your life, and it's going to be smooth sailing. At first, it's not, particularly if you're a people pleaser, particularly if you're a caretaker. It's going to be hard, but I promise you, it's going to be worth the while because changing your role in a family system often creates friction, and they're not expecting this of you. They're expecting you to play the role that you've always played up until now. But friction isn't failure. It's making adjustments. And your job is not to eliminate all the discomfort. Your job is to stop funding chaos at the expense of your own future. So, we first started talking about what it means to be to achieve first generation success in all the ways that that might mean financially, operationally, logistically, all the things. And then in this last segment, I've given you some boundaries that you can set up. And I would start off with maybe one of these at first. Don't try to implement all the boundaries all at the same time because you're not going to be able to. You're not going to be able to keep all of this in your head. And maybe you just concentrate on one of these for the next 90 days. Pick one of your decision rules or boundary rules and you're going to implement that for the next 90 days. You're going to come up with an amount of money and you're going to give yourself how are you going to make decisions when requests come up, especially if you know that you are in a family circle where these requests come on a very regular basis, maybe once a month or maybe once a week. So concentrate on just implementing one of these rules for the next 90 days. And I want you in your money journal to just document how are you feeling? How do you feel when you have the conversation? How are you feeling by creating this rule? Now, again, just because you create the rule doesn't mean you need to tell everybody about the rule. The rule is for you. It's not necessarily for them. It's for you. So for you to be able to name for yourself, this is how I'm going to be managing these requests, and then just manage the requests because you know better than anybody else that that request is going to be coming through. Coming up next, I'm going to be talking about how to protect progress without isolation. So, this is about how to use your baseline, buffer, and Brickhouse, your support strategies, and your decision rules to stay connected without staying financially overextended. Don't forget to look me up on Instagram at Do Better with Elaine. You can watch the show on YouTube and you can also listen on Sundays at AM 950. I will see you after the break.
Yeah. So they might go like, hey.
Welcome back to the Do Different Better show. I'm your host, Elaine Rasmussen. So glad you're here with me. We have been talking about first gen wealth. We've been also talking about just experiencing first generational success. And you might be feeling the pressure, you might be feeling the family obligation as the one who made it, quote unquote. We first talked about what is that feeling? Why do you still feel like that poverty mindset when you've accomplished all this success? And we gave it a name. Then we talked about what are some ways, some practical ways, decision rules that you can implement to help you guide some of those conversations and move into a different role and not necessarily being the one that everybody dumps on because you seem or perceive to have all of the answers and all the financial well-being. Now, what I'm going to be getting into is we're going to turn now that we made these insights and now we're going to create some systems because the goal is not to isolate yourself from people. We don't want that. As humans, we love and need to be in community, but the goal is to isolate from financial chaos. And those are not the same thing. You don't have to choose between building wealth and staying connected to the people that you love and hold dear to you. But what you do need is to have structure. And so you may have heard on previous episodes where we talk about baseline, buffer, and Brickhouse. So now we're going to get into that. If you are first gen and navigating family expectations, these three things are non negotiable. Okay. And you can tell them I said so. The first is your baseline. Your baseline is the minimal viable monthly expenses that need to be covered. This is your housing, your utilities, your food, your transportation, whether it be you commute using public transportation, you have a car service, or you have a car, and that is meaning gas to fill that car. It is, I know for me, one of the things that I used to do is I would I would budget for the year about $200 to $500 for car repairs. And I divided that by 12 and that became part of my baseline, right? So whatever, that amount is times, divided by 12, that then became part of my monthly budget. So that when I had to do a car repair, because we all know it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, I had that money ready to go and I didn't have to scramble for that money. That also includes insurance, whether you're paying for health insurance or life insurance, but these are your minimal obligations. Now, remember, code word being obligations. These are things that have to be paid in order for your life to run, not your streaming services, okay? Not your Netflix, not your DoorDash, but really what are the baseline things that you actually need to live your life? And here is why it matters. You cannot make clear support decisions if you don't know what your own life actually costs you. Baseline gives you a reality from which you start. It's the baseline. Look at that. Next is your buffer. Your buffer is your shock absorber. It's what the amount of money that keeps a normal life problem from becoming new debt or highly problematic. And this is why your buffer matters. A lot of first gen people drain their own buffer trying to be helpful and then get hit with their own life emergency and end up in a very stressful, not only financial stress, but like emotional stress or debt that seems unforeseeable that they can't maybe get themselves out of. And that is not sustainable support if you're sacrificing yourself over others, right? The third tier is your brick house. This is your resilience fund. This is 3 to 6 months or more, depending on volatility and caregiving. And here's why that matters. The brick house is what lets you be generous without being fragile for your own well being. It's what lets you say yes from overflow and not from sacrifice. You can sit in a place of abundance and not from a place of scarcity. And this is, something I want you to think about and how to reframe it. Your buffer creates choices. When you have no buffer, every ask feels like it's high stakes poker. Right? Am I putting it all on 2 sevens? Right? When you don't have a brick house, every disruption feels like it's a threat to your security. So now let's talk about support strategies that will help you preserve some of your relationships. If now you have to remember, once you start changing, once you start putting in boundaries, there are going to be people who do not like it. They have been accustomed to you responding in a certain way. And when we respond differently, we've now shifted the dynamic. And some people will double down on the guilt. Some people will double down on calling you names. Some people will double down. So now you have got to make a decision. Do you still want that person around and in your life? Because what that person is asking you to do is put yourself at risk for them. So be clear about what is happening in that dynamic. They may not be purposely trying to manipulate you, but that is what's happening. They are telling you that they are more important than you are and that you should do something because they are more important than your security. And just like when you're on the airplane, they tell you put on your mask first before helping somebody else. The same is true here. You can't give if you don't have it to give. So I'm asking you to support outcomes and not someone's habit. This is a really important phrase. If you want to help without becoming the permanent fix in someone's life, support the outcome and not the habit. And here's what that can look like. You can decide if they said, hey, my light bill is going to be turned off, my lights are going to be turned off, and I got 3 kids in the house. Instead of giving them the money, say, you know what? I'm happy to take care of it. What is it? $100, $200, $300? Send me the account information. I will pay it directly. A lot of times you can make one-time payments from an alternate account to pay utility companies and other companies, or you can write a check. Or what I've done with family members, I had someone who said, oh, my car broke down. I need it. I said, well, what's the nearest shop next to you? And I looked it up online. I was in a different state than they were. I said, I'm going to buy you a gift card for that repair place. And then you can use the gift card to be able to pay for the repairs. Ironically enough, they did not like that at all and said, never mind. So then that lets me to believe, what do they really need the money for? Maybe they really did not have a car repaired that they needed. So this is something to do. Instead of giving cash, actually pay the bill. If it's a tuition, pay the school directly. If it's a repair, maybe you make the deposit. If that fits your boundary. But this also gives you the opportunity to see where the money is going. You can also identify patterns and have a framework to create a system or support or direct folks to resources that fix the source of the problem and symptoms of a greater financial stress that they might be experiencing. Another thing that you can do is offer one-time bridge support. This is not indefinite coverage, right? This is a one-time bridge while you get stable. And you can use that language. I am giving this to you one time as a bridge to help you get stable. I remember a friend of mine did that for me. I was like, I had never asked this friend in 20 years for money. And this is when I was a single mom. My son at the time was about 5 years old. And I went to my friend, I said, I want to ask you for a one-time bridge. I said, I am paying for my son's Montessori school because my son was neurodivergent, and so I wanted to keep him in the school that he was in, but I was moving out of my friend's house and I needed the down payment or the security deposit for my apartment. And I said, I can't pay that and pay for this deposit at the same time. So I borrowed about $1,200. We worked out a plan that I would pay him $100 a month for the next year. And I ended up paying that off in 9 months. And so I did not want money to come between us as having a long time friends. And to this day, he says, that was maybe over 20 years ago. He said, "You are the only person in my entire life that has ever paid me back." I said, "Listen, I was not about to lose our friendship over $1,200. That was not going to happen. If we were going to lose our friendship, it was going to be about something else. It certainly was not going to be about money." But again, the comment or the statement of saying to somebody, "This is a one-time bridge while you get stable." Oprah Winfrey does this. She talks about when she gets asked for money, she warns the person asking that she will give the money, but that you can no longer be connected to her. That might seem very cold, but again, just like on an airplane, you need to put your mask on first before helping others. But if you help everyone without ensuring your safety, your security, your future, then eventually there will be nothing left for anyone, including for somebody like Oprah Winfrey. So now let's talk about systems. Sometimes the real gift in helping someone is applying for a payment plan, helping them find resources, helping them fill out a form, helping them locate community support, helping them build a simple plan so that this pattern of behavior, you're dealing with the root cause of the problem and not just the actual situation, right? And you can do this through dignity you can be compassionate. That means your help should move forward, move towards stability and not deepen dependency. So let's make this really practical with some other decision rules, right? Here are things, and I want you to write these down because I know you're keeping your money journal. So I want you to write these down. And if you're in the car, bookmark this and you can come back to it later. These are the rules that keep emotion from running the show, right? And these are rules that you can apply. And again, I don't encourage you to do all of these all at once. Pick one, apply that for 90 days. Then you can decide after 90 days, hey, I'm going to do this same rule for another 90 days, or you can try a different rule, right? Or you can keep the first one and add another one onto it. So, rule number one. If it threatens my baseline, it's a no. No guilt debate, no over explaining. If helping would destabilize your own household, the answer is no, unequivocally. Rule number two, if I don't have a buffer, I do not lend or give outside my plan support. You are not a safety net if your own net has holes. Rule number three, if it's recurring, it requires a line item in my support budget. No recurring little things, quote unquote, that quietly become structural obligations. And rule number four, if I feel guilt urgency, I wait 24, 48, 36 hours before making a decision. Urgency and guilt are not decision tools. Now, rule number five, I do not take on debt to help a family member or anyone for that matter. This is a big one, especially with family. Debt funded generosity is not generosity. You are deciding to become someone else's bank. It is self harm in a cute little outfit. Now, let's talk about what it sounds like out loud because many people know what they want to do, but they don't know how to say it. So I'm going to be giving you some boundary language that is loving but clear. Here are some things that you can say. I'm not able to do that, but here's what I can do. I use that one a lot, especially early on in my wealth journey of trying to stabilize myself and create my own buffer and brickhouse and baseline. You can say, I have a set amount I use for support, and I'm currently at my limit right now. Short, sweet, and to the point. Here's another one. I can help with a one-time solution, but I can't take this on long term. Or here's another one. I don't lend money in a way that creates pressure between us. Another one, let me help you think through options that don't put both of us in a bind or our relationship in jeopardy. I hope you're not noticing that none of these were coming from a place of defensiveness. None of these are cold. They see the person, but also none of them are over explained. Because over explaining often invites negotiation and for somebody to talk you out of the boundary that you're trying to set. Now, the bigger emotional truth. Sometimes the hardest part of first gen wealth is not building the money. It's tolerating other people's discomfort when you stop over functioning for them. And that is the real work. And I want to say this clearly to anyone listening who needed to hear it. You are not abandoning your people by refusing to become their entire financial infrastructure. You are trying to build something sustainable. You are trying to create wealth that lasts. You are trying to be generous without being consumed. That is not selfish. That is stewardship. So here's your action step. Go to the website. My website is www.dodifferentbetter.com, and you can download the first gen wealth boundary kit. It includes everything that we've talked about today with some scripts that you can use and practice. And I encourage you to practice them in the mirror. So I hope that this episode has been helpful. Maybe you're not first gen wealth holder, but you still feel like that's the position that you hold in the family, because that's also real. And I hope that you walk away from this episode with some real concrete things that you can implement today or this weekend or as soon as you get home, because this work is not just about money. It's about identity, about healing. It's about building a version of wealth that does not require you to disappear or avoid just to maintain it. So you have been listening to the Do Different Better show. I'm your wealth identity I'm your wealth identity coach and your money co-pilot. I hope that this episode has been helpful. Don't forget to catch us on Instagram at Do Better with Elaine. I will see you next time.